Hey guys, this is Ken McElroy, and you are listening to the Mailbox Money Show with Bronson Hill.
So Chris Levarek from Valkere Investments, interesting guy. He basically started with multifamily, started doing deals, started doing bigger deals, then started raising money for deals. And then he decided he wanted to switch to short-term rentals. Why would he do that? Well, it's because the long-term appreciation play does not always pay the bills, right? And there's a lot of people I know in multifamily that are either investors or they're operators, and they've had to kind of find other things that really can cash flow. So Robert Kiyosaki has said, I'm a cash flow guy. If it doesn't cash flow from the beginning, like I'm out, right? So Airbnb, it does. There's a way to basically be able to make it cash flow, even with one house, to have 60 or 70,000 netting just from one house, right? After you paid all the expenses, which is pretty great. It's a little harder now these days with higher rates, but it still is possible. And there are situations out there that are unique. So we're going to get into his story of just Airbnb, how you get started, how you can do it, how passive is it, what's changed over the years, and really what are the opportunities there. Let's jump in. All right, so I have Chris Levarek here with me. He's an awesome guy, a friend, and he's done both multifamily and single family Airbnbs. Chris, welcome. How are you today?
Good. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Oh, it's good to have you, man. I know we were talking, we saw each other a couple of years ago at an event. It's been a little while, and you live in Southern California, don't you live in this area as well?
I'm actually next door. I'm in Arizona. You guys are all
Arizona.
coming over here,
Oh,
but
that's right. Yeah, that's right. So we're all coming over to Arizona. So let's talk a bit about your background. I know you are big into, you've done a history of multifamily, so we have some similarities there. You were raising capital, kind of doing some stuff there. And then you've more recently have really started ramping up the Airbnb model of teaching people how to do Airbnbs. I've been very interested in this as an investor because it's very high cash flow if you can do it right, right? And there's some that can work really well. And there's been people talking about that it's slowed down in certain areas. But why don't you talk to us a little bit about your story? Kind of take us back to the how you got started in real estate, and then walk us through multifamily and kind of why you kind of made somewhat of a shift into some of the Airbnb stuff.
sure. Okay, cool. So yeah, I have a background in IT, but prior to that, I was actually military. I was a firefighter for the Air Force. Moved to Phoenix after my military career and got into IT. I went to ASU, so I got a degree in IT, and I've been an IT engineer for the last like 12 years. Um, Ended about 2 years ago. So I got started in real estate in 2018, and I started building this business where we were buying multifamily property. We were doing with a partner. Every deal we did with a partner. So our first deal was two duplexes in Durham, North Carolina. And so I got right out of the gate, it was out of state. I didn't buy locally. I don't know why I didn't like Phoenix back then, but it was expensive in 2018 for me getting started as well. So I found a capital partner, did a deal in North Carolina with my brother, who is still my partner in the business, Valkere Investment Group. We didn't start the business necessarily to have a business, but it grew into that after we started doing multiple deals with multiple partners. We did 5 duplexes in Durham. We did a 13 unit then in Fayetteville, North Carolina, just south of Durham, a 16 unit in Fayetteville as well. Then we went on to partner with another syndicator and started growing that business a little more, where we were raising capital. We did an 84 unit in Columbus, 120 in Dallas. The biggest one was like a 374 in Daytona, Florida, with another syndication group. And then we've done multifamily, continued on. We made 2 funds. So we have a 506B fund, 506C fund. And we got into short-term rentals roughly in 2020. So long wind, we kind of saw that cash flow was limited, at least for us specifically. We're kind of selfish on the syndication side. It's kind of limited in the beginning. You're waiting for that deal payout at the end. So I was looking for something to basically keep my business afloat and let me, hire out and grow some of the roles I wanted to grow in the business. So I got the first short-term rental, Kissimmee, Florida. And what I noticed is the first year we grossed about 120K gross. So even if you took 50, 60% expenses on that, you're pulling in 60, 70,000 net, which
Amazing.
isn't bad for
Yeah.
a property that cost us $625,000
Yeah.
purchase price. So it gave us the ability to get that cash flow, that high return, faster. The ramp up period was a lot faster than, say, waiting 3 to 5 years as a syndicator, on the other side of the deal. The LP, the limited partner, typically gets the best end. He gets the returns starting almost within 3 months of the deal. So on an apartment. So that's why we get into short-term rentals. I can go more into it.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, that's great. No, I think it's a great question. A lot of things, people have seen, and it really is the cash flow versus appreciation question, right? I ask a lot of investors what's more important, cash flow or appreciation, and people go, oh, I don't know, maybe some of both, whatever. But I'm under the belief that cash flow, to your point, is far superior to making a lot of money someday, or in 5 years or in 3 years, because you still need to eat. You need to have your housing. You've got to figure out, your insurance and your travel, and you have to figure out all these things. And so cash flow allows you to do that. Now, a side question here is your group is called Valkere Investments. I know like the project, I think it was the project to kill Hitler was called Project, it was like Operation Valkyrie. There's like a movie about this with the Tom Cruise.
Yeah, yeah.
And what is it? Is a Valkyrie like a bird or is it some other, like, what is it?
No, well, technically it was a deity for the Vikings. So it was like this
Okay.
female, I guess not, yeah. She was almost like a not a god, but under a god. She flew with wings and she would rescue Viking soldiers off of
Oh, okay.
the battlefield. You probably saw them in like the movie Thor's, the
Sure.
girls with the who had the wings and stuff like that. But we actually kind of like took it to the next level. I have a helmet up there if you can see that.
Yeah.
Um,
You kind of look like
so
Thor a little bit, you again, I got the muscles in the face and
oh, thanks. That's so kind. But we did take it to that point. We wanted so Valkyrie is actually an anagram of our last name, and then we wanted this idea of rescuing people from this lack of knowledge or the uncommon knowledge of investing in real estate. So we were rescuing the W-2 earner, and that kind of stuck, and it was a fun logo.
So on that note, let's talk about Airbnb. I mean, the numbers look great, especially if you bought a few years ago because your payment would be lower. How does that work today when rates instead of 3% are more like 7.5%, 8%? Like, how do the numbers still work, or does it just depend on the area, or what kind of a I guess, can you give us an example of a property today that's like, here's something we're seeing and here's what the numbers generally would look like, and just an example, just, you can make something up, but just something like, oh, it's kind of generally what we do.
Sure. So you're totally right. Like you can't go buy where you used to buy in 2020 or even 2019, 2018. A lot of people are buying in where we bought, Kissimmee, Florida, Orlando. They're building a lot of these neighborhoods for short-term rental only houses. And so the supply was very limited. Now supply is different. Interest rates are different. But same with like Destin, Florida, huge location people are buying in. Now you try to go get something, it's 1.8 million and you're paying 7.5 for an interest rate. So it's definitely not going to perform. A property in Destin, to give you an example, like, a 7-bedroom, 6-bedroom might pull 200K gross, which, okay, that's great. But if you bought a $1.8 million home and you have a 7.5% interest rate, you're probably not even breaking even on that, which, so you can't buy in the same places. Phoenix, Arizona had 13,000 listings added in 2022.
Wow.
Just so many people have come rushing into Phoenix for long-term multifamily and short-term rentals because of the Scottsdale demand and a lot. So it's hard to stay competitive in these areas at a 7.5 interest rate. It's just not going to be the same if you're buying at super elevated prices and you got all this supply. So knowing all that, what I tell people is, okay, well, don't buy in those areas. Go buy, like, the Midwest is really hot right now. Even like Michigan, Illinois, a lot of these areas you wouldn't think of. Kentucky, Tennessee has always been kind of big for, if you think of Gatlinburg, Pigeon Forge, those have been kind of big names in short-term rental space. But you just have to buy at a discount now. You can't buy at the same prices as you did before. I just saw a listing in Michigan that is in a cool area, just outside. People coming out of Chicago, they want to drive all the way through and go on the lake in Michigan, at a discount or at a short-term rental. And you could get a short-term rental in Michigan, in $300,000 to $400,000, and it might gross around $80,000. So you're looking at a 30% price to revenue ratio, that's usually what we look at starting out as kind of like a back of the napkin. What is this ratio? If I take the revenue and divide it by the purchase price, what's that ratio? If it's in the 30% range, you are really baking in a big buffer that's going to help you there. So that's my suggestion. Look at markets where it makes sense in that ratio.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of data out there now. There's AirDNA, there's other sites that kind of help you with getting, what rents are and how occupied things are. So I guess with someone who doesn't own one of these, I guess it just, comes down to buying in the right market. And you said getting at a discount. What are some, are you like trying to almost do like wholesaling or like flipping or trying to find your own properties and turn them around or doing them yourself and that kind of thing? Is that kind of a way you can get a little bit on the front of it and then renovate it the way you want it? And then that way you've kind of gotten a little bit better deal on the buy and built it for kind of optimized for Airbnb as well.
That's what we do. That's what I like to do. For the new investor, people we kind of coach and talk through in our book. We don't necessarily tell them to rush into that because it's kind of tricky knowing after repair values and knowing how to do renovations. But I've always liked value add. All our deals in the beginning, our duplexes, were all BRRRRs. So they were all go in, buy it at cash, all cash, add value, refinance, pull out your money. You can do that with a short-term rental. Obviously, if you're buying at a higher value, it gets a lot harder to do that. But we've used hard money loans to do that. We bought a property with hard money loan, added the value, added the renovations, and then refinanced back out as a short-term rental. So you can do that as well with the short-term rental. And I'm talking $900,000 purchase price. So you can do it with a hard money lender like that. And right now it's a little expensive to do that kind of thing, but it is possible to add that value up front and then do a refinance on the back end. But you do have to make sure your holding costs and everything you're doing during that renovation period, is going to make sense financially. So
yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And then when people manage, I know you have like if somebody has a rental house, that's one type of manager that might charge, 8-10% to manage a single family house. So I have some background in this, but I know it's a little more intensive when you're doing, an Airbnb. So are most people, the people that you're working with, are they managing these themselves? Do they have kind of like an automated system or a manager that kind of helps them? Or what kind of fees do people kind of generally pay for that or cleaning or all the stuff that goes into that?
yeah, so the people we work with, we're coaching them to manage it themselves. And there's a couple of reasons for that, but one is the taxes are amazing with short-term rentals. So you can get a cost seg study done on the rental you purchased. And a lot of the people we work with have a job. And so getting the cost seg study done and managing it themselves allows them to apply all that depreciation or those losses straight to their active income.
Wow.
Unlike, in a syndication, passive losses go to passive income. With a short-term rental, you qualify it as business income if the average of your stay is under 7 nights for the year. So say you're doing a midterm rental and you rented like 6 months of the year, that's not going to work for you. But what people do in this space is they get a short-term rental, get the cost seg study benefit, manage it for a year, hand it off to a manager after a year, and then go get another one the next year.
Yeah.
And so at any given time, they might only be managing one rental, but it is a great reason to manage it. The other side of it is you probably will pay 20 to 25% to a property manager if you outsource the management.
So the management, it doesn't seem like it's a crazy amount of work. It's just kind of like another thing you keep up with and make sure things are going well. And people do it out of area as well? So wherever you just live where you want and invest,
yeah,
which makes sense.
We have 5 we manage in-house ourselves, and we're not property management company.
Yeah.
I suggest people stick to the 1 or 2. It just depends what kind of market you're in. If you're in a market where and the kind of stay you're doing, if you're letting people stay for one night, you're going to have heavy inquiries and turnover, right?
Yeah.
So because if you're occupied 60% of the month and you're only doing nightly rentals like a Motel 6, you're going to be super busy. Whereas if you have, we rent minimum 5-night stay and you do 3 bookings a month. Okay, well, that's only 3 times you have to interact with someone. You're pretty much booked half the month already. So
Yeah.
maybe 3/4 of the month, depending. So it just depends what kind of property you're staying. You can make it light on management. You can make it a lot heavier. But I'd say it's good. A person for 1 to 2 rentals, you'll be fine. It's an hour a day or an hour a week and not impactful. So yeah, you can do it with your phone too.
Yeah. I know you have your book, Vacation Rental Millionaire Method. which is
Yeah.
awesome. And that came out recently. Well, what do you think, like these days, I know with higher rates and just, buying, you said like buying in the right markets, is that really one of the, like the biggest key is just make sure you buy in the right market, make sure that you, if you can get something at a discount, those are kind of like a couple, any other tips you have for people that are getting started?
Yeah, I mean, be sure to use the data. It's just like in multifamily, buy with logic, have a little bit of emotion reason. So emotional is like I'm taking a risk, I'm taking a chance. My grandma lives in the area. That's kind of emotion reasons why you'd buy a place. But balance it with that data from AirDNA is a good resource. Mashvisor is a good resource. Go check where people are moving, where people are flying to is another good one. Where people you can check where people are going, the hottest destinations, if you want to do a destination Airbnb. I think there's a great chance right now in multifamily as well, but in short-term rentals as well to find properties at discounts, like we discussed. You can pick the markets that have discounted prices, but you can also go look and find a property that's been listed. And this is easier in single family, but you can go look and what has been listed for over 125 days. And there's a lot of properties right now that are doing that.
Yeah.
And what does that do? That creates opportunity. You go to the seller, or even better, if you can go to a for sale by owner guy, because you're talking direct to the seller instead of going
Yeah.
through an agent.
Right.
And you say, hey, look, you've been on sale for 125 days. What's the price? Can you take this price? I can do this now, and you might get a deal that way. So that's buying at a discount instead of that. That's the opportunity right now. Is really the power of negotiation is on the buyer side, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah. It reminds me too. There's also there's a guy named Cody Davis. I don't even know Cody, but 23 years old. He has almost 200 multifamily units, and he did them all with seller finance or seller carry. And his whole method is he would go online, and there's a way you can look at Google Maps and tell which properties are multifamily. And he would go, and then he would just call. He just find their number, just call them up and say, hey. I just wanted to get coffee with you and hear about all your success. I own this other building here. I know you own this one. And they get together and just start telling their stories, whatever. And then you just start kind of figuring out what they need. And they just end up like kind of giving them a property. Hey, well, pay me 10K a month for the next couple of years until you fix this up, and then you refine. So I bet there's some opportunity with that too. That if people are just willing to do the work. But that's a great idea with the for sale by owner, because a lot of times we think people, really what they want is just all they want is just a bunch of money, but they may have a unique thing that they're looking for. And if you can just try to find a way to make it work, sometimes they don't want to, they'd rather actually pay less in taxes and drag it out for a couple of years. So maybe there's a way to do kind of a contract sale where you pay it over a series of years, and maybe that makes more sense anyway. But that's really great. Well, I love that you're doing this. Any other, I know you have a training program, you've got a coaching program, you've got your book. Is there anything else? I mean, do you foresee, actually, let's just talk about this for a minute. I know multifamily has struggled a bit just from higher rates and a lot of bridge debt and other things like that. So, where do you see rates going? I know if rates go down, it kind of helps all investors that are buying really, or have properties, because the valuations tend to go up, but it's more affordable to pay for them. Do you see rates kind of staying where they're at? Do you think they're going to come down? Do you have any opinions on that?
Yeah, I'm personally in the opinion that what's gone up for a long time most typically goes down. And so rates have gotten hiked so much over the last year that I believe it's more likely that they stabilize and then go down versus keep on going up. That's
Right.
just what history shows in general. Something that goes up usually comes back down. It doesn't keep going up. Our market's very different now than it was in the 80s or 90s. And so anything is up in the clouds. But my opinion is that it's going to stick right where it is a bit here, and then 2025, or maybe even a little sooner with politics coming involved, we're going to see a couple decreases going on. Maybe not as many as I've seen some people saying they're going to go cut by six cuts to the interest rate or something.
Right.
That might not happen, but I'm positioned. I've taken some higher interest rates on some of the short-term rentals. I think my highest is 8.1
Yeah.
interest only. So those are out there with DSCR lenders right now in short-term rental. And if you can make them work, the benefit is you can buy usually at a discount because nobody's buying it, and then refinance it in the 2025 era. And that's kind of what I'm positioning myself to do. So
Yeah. Yeah, amazing. That's why I love it, man. That's really great. Well, there's creative ways if you're willing to look and do the work and find a way to get it done. I guess, I just want to really acknowledge you, man, for the ways that you have developed and pivoted at times. It's good to have pivots. And we've gone from doing a lot of multifamily to doing occasionally and having ATMs and car washes and oil and gas and other things. I think there's great things out there. What's one piece of advice you'd give to investors kind of just starting out, whether in short-term rentals or another part of real estate investing?
Yeah, the big thing is kind of understanding what you want to get into. What's your ultimate goal? If you are super busy, you have 3 kids, maybe going out and getting a short-term rental and figure out all the details isn't for you. And that's why in my company, we made 2 sides where go invest passively or go do it yourself was kind of the approach we did. And that's why I suggested people, do you want to start a business? Do you want to learn how to run your first short-term rental, own it, get the benefits of taxes? Or would you rather do it passively? Like, figure out that initial goal. And it's really going to line up what the action steps and who to follow or who to align with is going to be right for you. Not everyone needs to be a syndicator. I don't kind of stepped in it and didn't realize what I was getting into in the beginning. You can just do 1 deal a year or be a passive investor 1 time a year or 4 times a year, whatever you want to do, but kind of start with that goal in mind and see if you can find someone else who's done that same track that you'd like to get on. That's going to make it so much easier than just kind of throwing mud on the wall and hoping you make some money. So That's my suggestion. Find someone who's doing it or you like and see if you can mirror their success.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, finding people that have done it, and just if somebody's done it, I know that, hey man, if Chris did it, maybe I could do it too. Just finding people who've done it, there's ways you can do it. And I think there's a lesson there too, to be willing to adapt and change, because for some people that I've actually watched some multifamily people that are been doing multifamily for a while, like, I'm going back to get a job or they're doing something different, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I want to like fire myself, man. I want to and just do real estate full time or do
the latest. And there's nothing wrong with that. I get that too. It's just pivoting. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is. Awesome, man. Well, I encourage everybody to reach out to you. Appreciate you being on the show today. How can people get in touch with you, follow what you're doing, hear about your stuff?
Sure. So I'm big on LinkedIn. I try to do a lot of posting on LinkedIn. If you want to reach out there, connect. I feel like that's a great neutral way to get in touch and connect. You can check out our website, valkeregroup.com, Valkere, Valkere group.com. Those are the best ways, really. But I'm active on LinkedIn, so reach out.
Awesome, man. Appreciate you, brother. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Take care.
All right, this was a great interview. I really like this. A couple of my takeaways were just to continue to take action in areas that you're interested in learning about. So if you want to develop more cash flow, you've got to actually take steps to do it. So Chris has a course, he's got a book, there's different things out there how to develop your Airbnb business. You don't have to be doing huge deals to have it make sense. Now, we're big on passive and firing yourself and this kind of thing, but there are ways you can set up an Airbnb business where it is pretty passive, right? And even if it's not passive, you can still work a full-time job. This is a way, it sounds like there's some incredible tax benefits where you can you use it as business income, and there's a way you can use it against ordinary income, which we're not tax people, not giving tax advice, but it is something that is always interesting to look at if there are taxable benefits that you can do. So another thing I got from this is, if you have a challenge in one investment, be willing to shift or to re-examine and sharpen the pencil and look at it another avenue. Or is it, time to go back into the same one? If multifamily hasn't been well for you for a while, maybe it's time to, well, what does it look like now? And what are the positives here now? Because we know that the overall market is very good for larger multifamily. So hope you enjoyed this episode. I really enjoyed it. If you haven't smashed that like button or written a review wherever you hear this show, please do. It really would mean a lot to us. Please share it. And we'll look forward to seeing you on the next episode of the Mailbox Money Show.
You've been listening to the Mailbox Money Podcast. For more free resources, articles, and videos, go to bronsonequity.com. There you can download your copy of the special report, The Single Best Investment Strategy During and After a Pandemic. None of the information shared here is an offer to buy a specific investment, and this is for educational purposes only. Consult your financial, legal, and tax professionals and use your own common sense before making any investment decisions. Thanks for joining us, and be sure to tune in next time for more Mailbox Money.